Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Doctor Who Season 2, Episode 3 just aired, The Well, and it was, well, incredible. There are going to be heavy spoilers in this episode, but I'm assuming if you've clicked on that, you already know. Doctor Who's The Well was a sequel to a 10th Doctor episode, one episode that is deemed one of the best episodes of the show in general, Midnight. But when the leaks originally started coming out that The Well would be a sequel to Midnight, I was genuinely pretty worried. I was pretty worried that they would tarnish the Midnight episode, that they wouldn't be able to do it in a proper way, that they would show us the Midnight entity, and that they would really fuck it up. But my god, I couldn't have been more wrong, and I'm very, very happy I was wrong, because this, back-to-back with Lux, has made for 2 incredible episodes, week to week. Now, the first thing I've got to talk about before the Midnight entity itself or anything else is the reveal that they were on the planet Midnight. Belinda and the Doctor had found themselves on Midnight, and they had no idea. The reveal, how it was intercut with flashbacks, and the music that they used from the original Midnight episode sent genuine goosebumps and shivers down my spine. I wish I could play it, but the Doctor finds out that he's on Midnight, and it cuts to, you know, a flashback like they've been doing with these episodes, where it cuts backwards and forwards, and it worked really, really well. Then the Midnight music hits, and the Doctor starts running down towards Belinda, and it keeps cutting between the two, and we see the Midnight entity start throwing around people, and it's genuinely such a great reveal, such a disturbing great reveal, probably one of the better reveals in the entire show, really captivating, really interesting, just genuinely such a good reveal. And whilst it was still an incredible reveal and sent shivers down my spine and was just a great episode all round, I really, really wish it didn't leak and people didn't post the leaks and it wasn't spoiled. Because I think if I went into this episode not knowing that it was a Midnight sequel and I saw these flashbacks and the music and then, you know, Midnight and all of this stuff, I think I would have freaked out. Because the reveal was genuinely that great. But it kind of reminds me of the Sutekh reveal, where everyone kind of knew that Sutekh was coming back, so it kind of ruined that reveal, that incredible reveal. And this mainly comes down to big accounts on Twitter just openly posting the leaks and spoilers, and a lot of people then just doing that under all replies, and it is genuinely incredibly frustrating with an episode like this, because it was so good, and it would have been 10 times better if we had no idea that the Midnight entity would be in this. Now, on the Midnight entity itself, we didn't actually see the Midnight entity, right? I thought that we were going to see the physical embodiment, and I really didn't want that. We did not. They were trapped permanently behind somebody, and that worked really well. The paranoia was still there, and people were turning on each other. It had all the key elements of what made the original Midnight episode so good. I wouldn't say this episode is better than the original Midnight. I would say it's just a little bit below it, but it still hits the same beats, those horror elements, and it works genuinely really well. And the Midnight entity has some new powers. You know, they're throwing people around, snapping people's necks. They're not actually taking over people anymore. They're just permanently stuck behind them and whispering in their ear, taunting them, making everyone around them paranoid, and if you go past a certain mark, like it would be 12 o'clock on a clock, you know, you die. It works really, really well. No pun intended there. And the Doctor-companion relationship is only growing stronger here. I feel like Belinda is a way more flushed out character than Ruby was. I care way more about the Belinda and Doctor's connection. It was really fascinating to see the role Belinda took on in this episode. Genuinely, it was just great. I don't have any complaints about this episode. I genuinely feel like I'm incredibly biased towards this episode on Lux, because they have been so good. I think Series 2 so far is better than Series 1, better than, you know, The Flux, better than Series 12. It's probably my favourite Doctor Who series in a while, and we're only 3 episodes in, and, you know, Robot Revolution was, you know, a middling episode, but it was a decent one. You know, Lux was incredible, and this episode was also incredible. We're on a really good run here. Again, like I said before, the music in this episode was incredible. They've managed to really nail down how to implement older Doctor Who music with newer Doctor Who music. We get a bit of old Doctor's theme in this, we get in some Midnight music, like in full blast, mixed with some new score, and it works really, really well. Keeps it very intense, keeps it very reminiscent, keeps it feeling like it is a sequel without it feeling like it's just harping completely off the original. It genuinely works really well. My critique is that this episode should have been just a little bit longer to resolve things a lot maybe better, more smoothly, have a conversation between Belinda and the Doctor like in Wild Blue Yonder, but it's such a small gripe that it doesn't really lower the episode's rating or how I view this episode. I think it would have just added onto it and made it even better. And something that was really horrific with this episode and really kept up the horror themes is the Doctor and Belinda go away in the TARDIS, you know, they go away for their next adventure, and, you know, we're still on the spaceship. We're still viewing these characters that we'd seen, and somebody had made a sacrifice to get rid of the Midnight entity, and by the time the Doctor leaves, you know, you think that the episode's over, that the Midnight entity is gone, and that, you know, it's case closed. but we're viewing these characters still for a pretty uncomfortable amount of time, and we find out that the Midnight Entity has survived on someone's back. So that person's sacrifice was for nothing, and we're left with this daunting feeling, the panic in our stomach, that this episode, this isn't over. The Midnight Entity is still around. You know, this episode, in terms of trying to get rid of it, was for nothing, and the Doctor has no idea about it. It's a very, very good and clever ending. Genuinely probably the best ending of any episode within the new RTD2 era, because it just really worked. I do feel pretty vindicated in the fact that I didn't feel like season 1 of Doctor Who, bar maybe a couple of episodes like the finale, really felt like Doctor Who. It was really missing something. Maybe it was the grit, maybe it was how it was filmed, the music, the pacing, just something felt really off about it. It didn't feel like Doctor Who. It was still great, it was still really good television, was still great Doctor Who, but it just didn't have that vibe of a Doctor Who episode in that terms. Not trying to be Star Wars theory where he goes, that's not my Star Wars, you know what I mean. Great stuff, but just didn't have that Doctor Who element onto it. I feel like RTD has really locked down in this series what Doctor Who is again. These episodes, Lux and, you know, this episode specifically, really felt like old Doctor Who episodes. Like, this feels like the old show. Some of these episodes are incredible. They feel like they could have been pulled from any run, from, you know, Christopher Eccleston to David Tennant to Matt Smith to Capaldi, and they just really work. They have that Doctor Who feeling on them, you know, the music, how they're shot, the episodes, the grittiness, the characters, just everything really feels like Doctor Who, and it's made me the most excited I've ever been for Doctor Who in a pretty long while. This is coming from somebody who enjoyed the 60th anniversary, who enjoyed Series 1, this just feels a lot more like Doctor Who, and RTD has really nailed it down with this series, and it's made me incredibly excited. I haven't felt this for Doctor Who in quite some time, maybe bar the season finale and the 60th. And even then, I'm way more excited for the future of the show now than I have been before. Like, this episode has really cemented that for me. But I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on this episode, genuinely, because I really enjoyed it. I've seen people on Twitter and online in the Doctor Who spaces have really enjoyed it. I haven't really seen negative reviews about it, not really any major negative thoughts. There's a few critiques here and there. I really enjoyed it, so please feel free to comment down below your thoughts. I'm really interested, and I will be reading those comments. Like always, I do have to give a score out of 10, and I don't want to give it too high, but I've got to, like, just on a personal note, and how this episode made me feel, and how this episode is, I've got to give this episode a clear 9.5 out of 10. But that was the Doctor Who episode. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what Doctor Who produces next week. Like I said, please feel free to comment down below. Once you're done, then you might as well subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a future upload. But I have been your host, Samuel, and I will catch you in the next Doctor Who related video.